Hi everyone, thanks for listening to another episode of Dogman Encounters Radio. I'm Vic Cundiff and I'll be your host for the show. If you've had an encounter of your own and would like to speak with me whether in private or on the show, please go to dogmanencounters.com and submit a report. I'd love to hear from you. Before we bring on tonight's guest, I wanted to update all of you on the subscription program. If you want to continue listening to episodes of the show on YouTube, nothing's going to change even after the subscription program begins on December 15th. Episodes of every show will be free of charge as always on YouTube if you want to listen to them that way. There will be commercials though. If you want to listen to episodes of the show without any commercial interruptions, that's when the subscription program comes in. If you want to find out more about this subscription program, please go to dogmanencountersradio.com and visit the How to Listen page. Again, that subscription program is going to start on December 15th. All right, let's bring on tonight's guest. Tonight's guest is Tyler. Tyler, welcome to the show.
Hi, Vic. How's it going?
It's going good. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Tyler, please give us a brief bio on yourself.
Well, I'm 31 years old now. I was born and raised in northern New Jersey. I have two brothers, and I have an identical twin brother. Unlike most people, I came into this world not alone. I came in with my brother Blake, and we do a lot of things together, so it's always good having a partner to really and have somebody to watch your back wherever you go, really, in most cases. So I've spent a lot of time being raised by my father and my grandfather in the woods around here in pockets of woods in northern New Jersey. Also, my father's side of the family, we have a farm out in Pennsylvania, so I spent a lot of time growing up there in the woods, hiking, fishing, camping, a little bit of hunting, and things like that. I'm also a firefighter. I'm not married. I don't have any children, and that's about it.
Now that you've had that Dogman encounter, how has that changed the amount of time you spend in the woods?
It's a lot less. I used to roam through the woods like a free spirit when I was a kid. I was always cautious about the typical creatures that are out there and animals, but now it's a totally different perspective. I don't go unless I'm absolutely prepared or absolutely research the area where I'm going. If it's not my backyard pocket of woods and it's any deeper than that, I go as armed to the teeth as I can, I'll tell you. I'm way more alert. I keep my head on a swivel when I'm in the woods now, for sure.
When you go from worrying about bears and mountain lions being out there to all of a sudden realizing that dogmen are out there too, it definitely changes things, doesn't it?
You can say that again, Vic. Yeah. I mean, encountering a bear would be something that's scary enough, especially if you're unarmed, but this is just something else that's just in a class of its own. Apex alpha predator almost doesn't even do it justice. That's how dominant and powerful this thing was. Being armed and going through the woods, it's a peace of mind against four normal things like cougars or bears or wolves or coyotes, but I don't even know if I would even want to shoot at this thing if I saw it. Let's just put it that way.
Well, I'd recommend against that. I always tell people if you have a gun and a dogman's around, don't shoot at it unless you're convinced you're going to die anyway.
Oh, yeah. I second that.
Yeah, that wouldn't be smart. When was the first time you realized what you saw that night is called a dogman?
Years later, not till this past winter, really. So about a year ago, give or take a few months. When I first encountered this was back in 2008. So I just thought werewolf. Then I didn't have anything. And that seemed like from the movies that I'd seen and, that just seems like a suitable explanation. I'm not sure that it is different. Now it's just everybody calls them dogmen. So yeah, it's about a year or so now that I've known of dogman.
How was it that you found out about the term dogman?
Just through sheer research and investigating through the internet. It didn't take me long till it came back to me, and I wanted to take a second look at things. Because initially, back then, I was doing research, but there wasn't much you could find on, say, dogmen or even werewolves, other than fake, fiction, movies. Back then, there was a lot of Sasquatch stuff.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I started this whole Dogman Encounters thing, what you just mentioned about the whole Sasquatch field.
Yeah. I ran into your show, Vic, and you basically everything, the majority of the things I've learned thus far through your show. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, that and a few other things, but yeah, it's definitely your show is absolutely the I've listened to it. It's got to be every episode, if not just about everyone. And it's helped me so much. As I ran into your show, it was like, it was really a relief to know that there's other people that are out there having these experiences and that I didn't run into just some Hollywood monster on my own. So it was comforting in a way, and I thank you for that, Vic.
Well, I'm so glad you found out about the show, and I'm so glad it's helped you. That's what it's all about. Your encounter happened at a place called Hunt's Pond. Please tell us about the place.
Hunt's Pond is a small little camping area. It's about an hour and change north of Lake George, upstate New York. It's a small little area. You come off of a main road. I even forget the name of that road. But the road that would take you to town, if you were on that road, it's probably 10 to 15 minutes till you get to this small little dinky town of, not much in it. A gas station, and a few other general store maybe and stuff like that. Not much. And so off of that road, you would take this dirt trail that goes probably about a half mile to a mile back into the woods, and then that becomes even to the smaller trails that go around from campsite to campsite, and those trails are just enough that you could fit basically a pickup truck through and maybe a camper, and not much room for cars to go either way, side by side. So there's I'd say about maybe 10 to 12, maybe about a dozen campsites on this pond. The pond's not too large. It's a glorified pond, I guess we can call it, but yeah, nothing too large. Just a little fishing pond there, and a nice little quiet spot if you want to have a group to go to. And we actually had gone there for, I think, 2 years prior to the encounter and the experience that we had that led to the last time going there. And that's good old Hunt's Pond. Good memories there. Well, except to the end anyway.
Yeah, that did kind of change things. It sounds to me like the place is out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's pretty far out there. I don't even remember. So many years ago, we've gone to so many different places camping, what the name of the town was. Some rural town in upstate New York. And yeah, it's pretty far out there. From our campsite to get to, say, that general store or the gas station, it'll take you about 20, 25 minutes to drive, navigating through some dirt roads and things like that. So yeah, it's pretty far out there.
Yeah, it does sound like it's in the boonies. You said you'd been there 2 times before, 2 years in a row. Did you ever have anything happen that made you think that something might be a little bit off on those trips?
No, those trips went completely smoothly and nothing went wrong. It was a good old time. We had about the same amount of people as we did as when I had the encounter. It was about a dozen or more of us, anywhere from 12 to 16 guys. And no, those trips that's where I said the good memories are. We had a lot of fun building rope swings and canoeing and all the good stuff that comes with camping. No problems. I never really saw any signs. And we're the type of crew that keeps our eyes open for those things, even when we were younger like that. So we stayed alert. Nothing to signal any warning.
It sounds like a good place to hang out to me. All right, Tyler, please tell us about your encounter. Give us every last detail that comes to mind.
Okay. Well, so this is back in first weekend. It's right after Memorial Day weekend. We always go first weekend in June. It was an annual thing that we did with the guys. Like I said, I'm a firefighter, and it's really just a group of guys that I grew up with through high school and I've known my whole life. And this crew of guys, the squad, we like to call it, is made up of basically everyone there is either a firefighter and/or a police officer, a retired Marine, and one doctor. So we had one medic with us, one doc. He was actually a doctor in training at the time. So it would be an annual thing for us to kind of just pick any place randomly. Like you take out a map, and it was always upstate New York we'd go to. That was the most accessible, I guess. We never really went out west of Pennsylvania. So it was always, we like to just go north from where I am in northern Jersey anywhere from 3 to 5 hours out, up north, and go way out there. And that was our getaway. It was our thing. It was our annual trip that we loved to do. We all looked forward to it. So, the weeks leading up to it, it'd always be talking to each other. Who's bringing this? Are you bringing that? And a rule that I wish we had not in place because of this encounter, but the only real rules that we had that were kind of joking were no shotguns and no chainsaws. Those are the only two rules because we kind of, we could act like knuckleheads up there, I guess, a little bit, so out of safety reasons. But now, after this encounter, I almost wish I had that shotgun with me. The annual trip came up. Like I said, we've been to Hunt's Pond 2 times prior to this encounter, and we loved it. It's a good spot. Not too many people really went there or bothered us, and we could basically do whatever we want. We knew the ranger that would come by, and he never said anything that would indicate anything dangerous or anything like that, and not even the time we went where the encounter happened. So we were cool with him. He would basically let us do our thing, and yeah, it was a good old time. We could just let loose, let free, and turn our phones off if they even worked anyway. I don't think there's any signal there. So, it was a good way to get away from everything. So this trip with the encounter happened. It was the first weekend in June. I believe it was 2008, maybe 2007. My brother says '08, so I think it was then. So I was about 22, 23 years old. And we go up there full of testosterone and confidence, which shortly be removed from us. And you could say that we had a group that was full of, I guess, professional tough guys, right? At least we thought. So the first night there, we get there early evening, late afternoon on a Thursday, and things go smoothly. Weather's great. It happened to be a particularly, nice weekend. A weekend, I remember it was the day we got there was probably in the mid 60s, slight breeze. So imagine that night getting down to like 40s. So the first night we're there, everything goes fine. We set up camp, set up shop, do a little fishing, everything goes all right. The next day, so it's Friday, same thing. We do our fishing, do our canoeing, and we notice that there's another crew of people that come in to the campsite with us. Like I said, there's about a dozen sites there, and they're all fairly close to each other. Like you could walk to them. It's not like it's going to be a far drive between sites. Like I said, this is a smaller pond. The area's a little more dense, but it seemed like people tended to not really go there so much. So there was another group that came in, and to our delight, it was a group of about 7 or 8 people, and they had a few cute girls in there, right? In their group. And of course, we're, a group of about 15, we could say 15 give or take a guy of, 21 to 23 year olds. So we had the idea that evening, so it's Friday evening, that we were going to take a walk and go introduce ourselves down to the people there. Our campsite was up from the pond a little ways. It was a little bit of an incline. I'd say we were about 80 to 100 yards from the actual pond. Then you would have to take the dirt road that would lead you down there to the boat launch. So the boat launch was about maybe 150 yards because you had to go along the pond a little ways from where we were. But the direct shot to the pond was about 80 to 100 yards. So we're up a little ways, and these people had their campsite closer to the boat launch. So we had the idea, me, my brother, and 2 of my buddies went to go walk down the trail to go introduce ourselves. Oh, I have to, I'll make a note here of something. It was like ironic, and it's funny to laugh about maybe now, but at the time it wasn't funny. One of my buddies made, a snickering comment. He had a brand new K-bar that he had bought, and he was all about it. And he kept on telling us, oh, you're going out there in the dark. Watch out for forest trolls and stuff like that. We all laugh. Oh, ha, 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 ha. Yeah, forest trolls, right. Okay. Yeah, and he'd all be like, no, I'm serious. In a joking, but kind of like he was that type of guy that was maybe the only one in the group that might be a little nervous of the woods. The rest of us were pretty much veterans when it came to the woods. Like I said, Marines and stuff like that. We were at home in the woods. We all grew up together going in the woods and stuff like that. I've never had an incident we've run into a black bear one time and things like that, but nothing like this. So he says that comment about the troll, makes a little snickering comment. That was probably about an hour before we decided to take this walk down to the pond to go introduce ourselves. So we're back to that. All right. So there's 4 of us walking in a diamond formation down the road. I have to say that a lot of our maneuvers and even communications and things that we do in the woods, that we're so familiar with each other, and a lot of us are militarized, that we do communicate with military lingo in some ways. I know some people will probably say, hey, you're a bunch of dorks, but no, that's just our thing, right? So we're moving in a diamond formation. I'm at the rear. And we also have our fishing poles with us in hopes to cast out a few lines to maybe catch a catfish or 2 overnight, right? Or check the lines maybe every hour and see if we get one. Just put some liver on the line or let it sit. So as we're walking down the trail, I start to fall back a little bit because I'm messing with my fishing pole, trying to fix the reel or something. I can't remember exactly what I was doing. So we are only armed with flashlights, a fishing pole, and I had my hunting knife on me. I do need to mention at this point, make a note, that 2 of the officers that were with us did have their 9mm on them stowed away, just in case, right? And I'm glad they did have them. I'll tell you that now, and you'll find out why soon. So we're walking down the trail, and I have to say it's about 9:30 to 10 o'clock p.m. It's a pretty clear night for the most part. Cirrus clouds. You can see the stars. It's gorgeous. We got about a 3/4 moon, so it's pretty well lit, despite the large pines that are around us, large pine trees. So it's pretty crisp. You can just see your breath. So it's just really a gorgeous night. We wanted to catch some stars and things like that. You know, it's everything here you could think of that you would want on a camping trip, nice and peaceful and not a scent of danger in the air yet. That flips around real quick. So as we're walking down the trail, like I said, I started to fall back a little bit, messing with the rod. And I look directly to my 9 o'clock to my left. I can just start to make out the shimmering on the pond from the moonlight. And at about my 11 o'clock, I can just barely make out some of the flickering of the flames from our neighbor's campfire pit. And then, be it about my 10 o'clock, is 2 glowing, what I thought, orange, amber, or, well, let's just say I thought they were ambers from the fire at first. So this is what I'm going to tell you. It's a very detailed things, but it all happens in a matter of seconds, right? The brain can process a lot of things real quick. So I see these 2, what I think are ambers that are drifting through the forest, and I thought they came off the fire. But then it goes through my mind, no, wait. They're way too far from the fire. There's no way an amber would drift that far. It's not even that breezy to begin with, and there's no way something that large, what looks, I don't even know how to give a size reference from here, at least looks like the size of about a $50 from even where I'm standing, maybe a little smaller. And there's no way an amber could drift that far. And there's 2 of them together, right? So that first was processed in my mind, probably about a microsecond. And then it hits me that I'm looking at a set of eyes. So just as quick as I thought they were ambers, I stop in my tracks and I'm kind of squinting, looking at them, and it hits me, oh no. They're a set of 2 orange eyes. And when I mean orange, I mean, I've never seen anything like this. I mean, like if you were to put a candle inside of a jack-o'-lantern and see how much it glows the interior of that pumpkin, that type of orange. But the thing about these eyes, and even that I noticed immediately, is that they look like they're self-illuminated, or they are self-illuminated, I guess, some kind of internal illumination, but yet they don't emit any light. So what I mean by that is that they're glowing, and they look like they're kind of glowing, but it's not emitting orange light, say, on the creature's face or on the brush around it. So nothing else around it is orange. It's just these perfectly like you could draw a line around them. No, there's no glare to them as if they're glowing, just perfectly orange, internally glowing eyes. It's still boggling when I think about it. Like picture them in my head like it was yesterday. So I realized that there's a set of eyes, nothing I've ever seen before. Oh, and it's not, you can't tell me, nobody could tell me, and I know it's not that, it's not when you were to take a flashlight and shine them and you shine it on a raccoon's eyes or a dog's eyes at night, you get that glimmer, you get that eye shine that I've seen a million times. I know what that looks like. This was not that. All right, this is way different. We weren't even shining our flashlights in that area. It's like as if this thing was wearing a pair of night vision goggles on its eyes that glue orange, but didn't emit any light. I don't know. It's the best way I can describe it. So I realized that they're eyes, and as I'm looking at them more, just to clarify it even more, I see them blink. And that's basically where, I'm dead in my tracks. I guess I'm froze up a little bit. Not because I'm not quite in terror at this point yet. I'm still inquisitive. So I'm trying to figure out what this thing is. So it's running through my mind. Is this bear? Is this cougar? Is this a coyote? A stray dog? And all these, typical known creatures are going through my head, and I thought that it possibly based on the silhouette of it. So I can only kind of see the silhouette of it at this point. I was thinking cougar because this set of eyes at this point were only about 3, maybe 4 feet off the ground. And even that, at that point, I thought that's kind of high for a cougar. And it's kind of just drifting along to the right. So I'm looking to the left at it, and it's drifting along to the right, kind of like swooping along, very, low to the ground, like, so I can tell that, I can see the black pupil in them too, by the way, and I see this thing blinking. It's like shutters going off, because when it blinks, it's just black, and then it opens up, it's boom, bright orange, and it's kind of moving it's parallel our motion, but very stealthily. And I guess it doesn't figure that maybe I've seen it at this point. Not sure about that. I don't want to speculate. So, I'm thinking it's a cougar, perhaps. They're low to the ground. And then the thing happens that really rocks my world. It's still, it's like one motion that this one creature made that would be able to change my perception permanently, right, in life. No more innocent, young-minded, free-spirited through the woods. It's one moment changed me. The eyes I see, because I can just kind of make out the silhouette, they go from about 3 to 4 feet and rise up to about 7 feet high, just like that. And, oh man, this is the part that really gets me. As it stands up, it kind of stops probably at like the 5-foot range. And as if it jerks each shoulder one at a time, like first, say left and then right, like as if it's, kind of stretching. But as it does that, it makes this crack pop sound, like it's, rearranging its joints or something like that. And as it does that, it stands up, it literally looks like this creature almost doubled in size from what I just saw on the ground. And that was just, so I'm frozen. There's a million things going through my mind. And oh man, now I'm seeing this monster in front of me. I still don't know what it is. As it stands up, it's making these cracking noises. The hair standing up in the back of my neck. That's for sure. And I got, you just have that. I don't know if anybody's ever felt it before. You know that feeling of just dread that comes over to you where it feels like you get punched in your gut and you get the wind knocked out of you. It feels like a part of your soul gets ripped out of your chest. That's how I felt. Where your breath gets taken away from you. Literally, lost my breath. So completely baffled at this, and it just totally discombobulated. I can't even. I lost control of my motivations at that point. Let's just put it that way. Fancy way of saying that I peed my pants. Yeah. And so it stands up. I kind of want to like shout to the guys ahead of me, who, by the way, are completely oblivious to this. So I have to remind you again. I just gave you a very entailed description, and there's more, but that's all happening. This was probably over 5-6 seconds that happened. And my brother and my two buddies in front of me still bebopping along, like, you know, getting ready to go say hi to some chicks and catfish, and they have no idea what's going on. And I'm just kind of barely getting out, like, guys, you know, trying to say, like, guys. And it even gets worse, because at this point, when it stands up, after it's done rearranging itself, I can only just barely make out the silhouette of it. It's just completely black, except for its eyes, of course, but its eyes don't shine on its body. So all I see is eyes and then this huge black silhouette. But then it steps forward a little bit, and it steps forward just enough to where it catches a good portion of the moonlight, to where I see its snout or its muzzle, whichever you want to call it, come forward kind of into the light. And I can even see, because right before that I'm thinking, oh, maybe it's just a Sasquatch, which doesn't really have me feeling much better anyway. And now it moves forward, and I see this wolf-like face, and that's oh man, that was talking about a bad realization, right? Being in a bad, cheesy monster movie, I felt like I was in all of a sudden. So I look forward and I see its snout, so I can see that. That's what kind of makes me think. Yeah, I could tell right away that this was not a bear standing up. It's like I was able to throw that out the window quick, especially as it made the popping noises. And just by when it stepped forward, I saw the snout, the way the eyes were glowing. I could see the top of its head. So now its silhouette went more to like just a barely like a shine of an outline, to where I can see that it had the fur. I could see a little bit more of the muscle definition. I could see its upper torso pretty well. Still the bottom, not so much, not so well. There wasn't too many bushes there or something to cover it. It was just pine trees there that were just those skinny pines right next to, I'm not sure exactly what they're called, you know, and, it's a boreal forest, I guess you could say. And then, so it's just these skinnier pines over by the pond there. I guess they were probably a newer growth. And, it really just, the rough that was below it, it's just all twigs and sticks and branches that have fallen, and pine needles, and maybe some leaves. So there's not heavy brush there. So I could see kind of like the silhouette of its legs, but I can't really make them out as much as the upper torso. So the upper torso, this thing's enormous, by the way. I have to say, where I'm standing on the road levels out. And this thing's at my 9 o'clock, like I said, or now I'm facing it, so it's at my 12. So I'm facing it right at it, right behind it is the pond. And there's a slight decline that goes from the road where I am towards the pond. Not a big angle, but, you know, maybe like 10, 15 degree slight decline, to where it's going to push an extra foot for this thing probably. So I stand 6 foot tall. This thing's already a foot over me, at least a foot over me, just by standing, and it's standing downhill from me. So give it a good 2 feet, I'd say at least. You know, and I stand 6 foot, so this thing's pushing 8 feet. Yeah, maybe even more, 8 plus. Oh, pretty tall, and tall enough to where 8 feet with a monster like this. That is, I can't begin to describe how large of an animal that really is. And when it's standing in front of you too. Well, by the way, its distance, sorry, I didn't give that. Its distance is about 25 to 30 yards from me. So close. Way too close for comfort. And, might as well have been in my face. And, this thing is just jacked. It is just the muscles on it. it doesn't really have much of a neck, but it is just bulky and just, its shoulder muscles are just huge. I couldn't see too much defined of the muscles, but I could see that its arm structure and its torso and upper body were basically, I guess, similar or the same, structurally as a person, as a human. So, yeah, its upper torso is huge. I said the snout, it's not really even showing teeth too much. It did like a little bit, and I could see the white a little bit, but it was more just kind of staring at me and move forward with its mouth closed. And I could see the breath coming out of its nostrils, like a huge breath. Ears, very pointy, yeah, I mean, my brother says kind of like a jackal was, but, or a German Shepherd even, but more exaggerated than that. Like Batman's mask pointy, kind of like that. Maybe not that much, but pretty close, right? And, as far as its color, it was a dark hue, dark shade of something. Probably more towards the black. That's what my guesstimate would be. It was pretty dark, but I think when the moonlight, if it was a lighter shade, I would have seen it. So this thing was either really dark brown or jet black. So, and I could tell it had fur. The fur or hair, whichever you want to call it, was evenly distributed throughout the body. For the most part, from what I could see. So, it's not that hair that was too long, not like a lion's mane around its neck long or anything like that. Kind of just that medium length. It's like maybe like if you were to take one hair from its shoulder, maybe about 3-4 inches long or something about that. So decently long, but not like it looks like a big hairy ape or something like that. So at this point, after all these, I'm giving this grave description. This is all happening in seconds. So this process through my mind, and basically the only conclusion that I can come to from what I know is werewolf. And when that realization came in, I guess that's about when that happened or just before it. I managed to compose myself a little, get my motor functions back into check a little bit, and I managed to get my voice capabilities back, and I managed to tell my buddies up ahead, I gave them a hold, hold up. I was like, we got contact left. I was like, and I'm whispering this too, contact left. And we got a big, huge animal over here. And I'm not saying werewolf at this point to them. I'm just, cause there's not enough time to do all this to realize. I'm just telling them to hold up. We got contact left. Check yourselves. Huge animal. And then my fight or flight kicked in. Cause this thing, right before this though too, cause I know I said I didn't get a great look at its legs. I did get to see basically what they were made up of after it was looking still at me, but turned its torso kind of, so it was walking parallel in the same direction that we would have been walking, which would have been to the right, like paralleling the road towards my buddies and my brother, but it was still looking right at me. And at this point, I was able to see that it had, now I know they're called hocks. It's the reverse leg jointed, it's like a dog's leg, just enormous. And this thing's thigh was probably like 3 or 4 of my thighs put together, and I'm not a small guy. So, I'm able to see that. And that's basically, once I see that, that's where I'm able, in my mind, where I put together werewolf, because I see that it has it's upright canine. I've already been able to establish that it's none of the above as far as all the other animals I went through. Not even a Sasquatch. Not that I've seen a Sasquatch in person. I haven't, but just based on pictures and stuff, like I just knew this was a werewolf. It looked like the As I mentioned to Vic earlier, I mentioned that it looked like the werewolf from Van Helsing. Basically kind of like that, with as far as the structure of its face, how long its snout was, and the length of its hair. And that it has the hocks. So I know these things now. I know they're called hawks, and I know a bit about Dogman now because this is years later, and I've done a lot of research since. So all this happens. Back to, I realize it's a werewolf. I kind of yell. I let my buddies know. I alert them, and I hightail it out of there. Right? I sprint, and I could tell you, I ran that about 60 or 70 yards. I don't know how quick, but it was quick. And I'm a fast guy too. I ran tailback, and in high school and football, and I played inside linebacker. I was a quick guy. I ran that. I've never sprinted that fast in my life, man. And my buddies, my brother and my buddies ahead of me, they didn't have to ask twice because they know I don't turn tail like that and run unless all other options fail. Because if this was a bear or a cougar or a coyote or anything like that, a wild dog, us four would have joined together. We've done this before because we've encountered things in the woods. We're no rookies. This isn't our first rodeo. So we would have joined, linked together, would shine our flashlights on it, blind it, and move back together in unison. An organized fallout. This wasn't organized. There was something in my mind that said, it doesn't matter what you do, linking up together isn't going to do anything for this creature. This thing looked like it could flick my head and it would pop off. Like, that's how big and strong this thing was. There was no match. There's no competition. Game over if this thing decides to come at us. So I sprint. When I sprint, they know that I mean business, so they take off with me. And it doesn't give chase. Thank the Lord. But, oh man, that moment was just, I can't tell you, I've faced some scary things. Like I said, I'm a firefighter. I've been in, house fires, and that was scary. I've had some, near-death things, and been in fights and all that stuff, and I could tell you nothing came close to the fear factor that this thing put the fear of God in you. It did for me. And, so we come sprinting, everybody else enjoying themselves back in camp, listening to some country music, not too loud, drinking some beers, hanging out, laughing around the campfire. Meanwhile, here we come flying out of the darkness into the campfire like bats at a coming into the campfire and making a ruckus. And I think my brother basically caught like a glimpse of it as we went to sprint. So he kind of knew, but then my other two buddies were still like, what is going on, Ty? What you sprint like that for? Then they weren't even really scared at this point. They hadn't seen anything. So they just thought maybe I got a little spooked and ran. But then they started to see the look on my face and realized, and my brother knows me best. He knows if I look like that and if I run like that, something is wrong. Something is very wrong. So he goes to kind of like question me and calm me down. My nerves are shot at this point. Still kind of catch my breath. I'm just barely stopping myself from like hyperventilating. I do calm down fairly quickly. I guess due to me, perhaps my experience, as a firefighter, I've been in panic-like situations. So having just, some experience with that or dealing with other large animals in the woods has helped me to this point to where I can calm down a little bit. Even though my mind just got blown, I always had a knack for, I thought, even growing up, I was always interested in kind of like mysterious things. And I always thought that it was very possible. I didn't know, but I thought that it was a very plausible idea that Bigfoot or Sasquatch could exist. So prior to seeing this, I was a little bit more open-minded to it. But back to what happened then. So we come into the campfire. Things are chaotic a little bit. Everybody else is wondering what's going on. People, I feel like, are asking me a million questions, but then I focus in on my brother. And at this point, I'm I'm in a predicament a little bit because I don't want them to think I'm just nuts and blow me off if I tell them I just saw a werewolf. Are they going to take me seriously or not? But then so it was to me to figure out how can I describe this to my buddies right now so that they believe me and take this situation seriously. I thank goodness that, that was perhaps my worries at the time, but thank goodness that I did have my brother there and a few of my other friends that knew me very well. They saw the look in my face though, and they knew that something was wrong. Like I said, something is very wrong. So I basically am able just to get out. I decide, I guess in my mind, after sitting there on the cooler next to the fire, they're all kind of fussing about what's going on, turn the music off. And I just said, there's a huge animal out there. I'm pretty sure I just saw a werewolf. That's what I said to them. I just came straight out. I'm like, guys, there is a werewolf out there. I'm like, we need to go. And then they came to me. I was just like, we need to just go. And I didn't even really want to pack up. I just wanted to go. My mind was just, I need to get away from this thing. But unfortunately, my brother having the keys to my Jeep, or our Jeep that we shared, and my other buddies still not seeing this Dogman or anything else. They're curious. They want to know why I'm so freaked out. Like I said, they're a bunch of tough guys. They need to find out for themselves, right? I advise against this. Of course, I have my one buddy in the group who's, he's got to be that guy to where he's just that guy that you love and hate at the same time. He's the guy that you love to slap him. It's kind of like that relationship. I love him with all my heart, but he can be a pain in the you-know-what. So, but he's got to be the guy that goes and checks it out, right? I highly advise against this and saying, no, we need to leave. He's got to go check it out. So everyone kind of goes into alert mode. It's not full defensive or hostile posture yet. It's alert mode. So we go from relaxed to alert. Everyone gets out any weapons they have. This is where, thank God, we had the 9mm. You take out the two 9mm. The flashlights and hunting knives are out, which is a joke now that I think about it. Going out that thing with a hunting knife, you're right. So we're all up at the top of the trailhead there next to the campfire. And my buddy starts, we're kind of in the perimeter within a circle, covering 360 degrees, right? And my buddy starts to walk down the road. And my brother actually follows behind him a little ways. He was closer to us. He was kind of like halfway maybe. So my buddy goes down the road, gets about 50 yards away from us, and he's looking to the left because that's where I had just seen it. That's where I said it was. That's not to say it didn't move, and apparently it did because he's standing there, and we start to hear crunch, crunch, crack, something moving through the brush, but it's up to the right. And now up to the right of the road, like I said, it comes from the pond to the left where it's a slight incline. Then the road flattens out. And then it goes up to the right more where it's about 6 to 7 foot slope. That's pretty drastic. I want to say a cliff because, it's not really that high, but it's like 6 to 7 foot of like a kind of like a drop off that goes up a rock ledge there where they must have dug out the road and whatnot. So, and that up there starts to lead to where it's the back of our camp area, where we go to relieve ourselves over there in the trees. So, he's on the trail and we hear the crunch, crunch, crack. He spins around, he's 50 yards away from us. We're covering him with an overwatch we have the best flashlights we had at the time were the rescue lights that we had from the department. And they're pretty good. They're like, you can see good 60, 70 yards with about, 4 or 5 foot diameter. Those things are bright, right? They will shine up the woods. So we're covering them with that. And this thing still wasn't we still weren't able to see it with the flashlights. He He's on the trail. He's looking to the left and hears it behind him, swings around, shines his flashlight up that little ledge to the right there, screams like a little girl. And then there's just this, I won't call it a roar or a howl. It was an extended grunt, but, it was a grunt / roar that this thing gives off and nearly blows my friend off of his feet. That's how powerful it is. Him and my brother come sprinting back. I felt it from where I was, and I'm 50 yards from my buddy. This thing, it was probably fairly close to him by the way he reacted and how the crunching sound, how far it was. So maybe this thing was 70 yards from us, 75 yards, and it just gave out this real, this enforcing grunt roar, kind of like you're pissing me off, get away from me type of like grunt, like letting you know like who's boss type of grunt. And now I know what people have said, and I didn't know this at the time. I want everybody to know that this was back in 2008. I didn't know this at the time. I just thought it was a really intense roar or grunt. But now I know where I've heard some people mention that there's maybe a type of infrasound there or some kind of way where there's a paralyzing effect in their vocal capabilities that you feel it down to the core. You feel it through your bones. And that's exactly what I felt. When people said that, I was like, oh, that's exactly what it was. I know what you mean. Because even at our distance, after that thing let out that grunt, we all looked at each other and we were like, whoa, wait. No, that, and I kind of was like, as they came sprinting back, my buddy came sprinting back, he saw it. I gave him the old, I told you so. And, it was justified at that point. I got my I told you so. And, it was just so impressive. The lung capacity of this thing, even in just that short burst, you could just tell that this thing was boss. Scratch off the lion, he's no more the king of the jungle. As far as I'm concerned, this thing, Dogmen are. These things are. So, he comes running back. After he sees it, I guess that more or less confirms it for the group. So we go into, it's still not enough to get the majority of the group to want to leave. Because they're a group of tough guys, the Marines, they're going to stand their ground and they'll be if they let anybody kick them off of their campsite, right? No, that's not going to happen. I'm trying to explain to them, you don't understand, we're not dealing with something conventional here or your standard black bear or something like that. This is way different. And we do not want to face this thing. We are not going to hold ground with this thing, right? It's not happening. This thing's going to run through us if it wants. And that was with only one of them. We could have ran through all 15 of us if it wanted to, probably. So, we get back to the campfire. Now, since they decide to stay, after I try to beg them not to do this, not to stay, to pack up and leave, and no, they want to hold their ground. So, I have no other choice really, but we go into complete, now we move from alert mode to potential fight mode. We're in defensive perimeter mode. So there's a couple of picnic tables there. We flip them, around the campsite. We form a perimeter using any objects that we have around the campfire. I want to say the cars were no more than like 50 or 60 yards away, but like I said, they weren't ready to leave yet. Because I'd say it was only me and my one buddy who really saw it. I saw it obviously the most, and then my brother got kind of a glimpse. So that's only 3 out of 15 or 16 guys that saw it. So it's not enough for the other majority to want to leave yet. Because, this is an annual trip we look forward to all year, and we're not going to let anybody ruin it for us or anything. That's their perspective anyway. Everybody got a little humble after this night, and I sure did. So we're around the campfire. Thankfully, we had cut down a couple of trees earlier that day for firewood. You're not supposed to do that, but, So we had a couple of trees to the side. Thankfully, we had some real long, sturdy limbs that me, my brother, and I think maybe my one other buddy. I know I went into like kind of a tunnel vision of just prepping at this point. I had my knife out. I was carving spears out of the wood, right? I was making spears and I was just cranking them out because I just thought the only thing that maybe I can do at this point, there's a lot of things going through my head. Maybe the only thing I can do that might give us a chance is if, we make enough spears and then, we can maybe at least get this thing to leave or something, or, at least just hold our ground. I'm thinking we're in for a fight. And it did cross my mind, I'll tell you now, that it's a bad feeling when you think that you're not going to make it when you're in a situation. And, it's just, that's a hard thing when you're in the fight. There's a lot of adrenaline going, so that helps. But at that moment where it kind of got quiet there, I just had that moment where, I looked at my brother and it's just a very spiritual, personal moment that I had, I guess, of reality and what did I just see? And am I ever going to see my family again? Is this thing going to kill me and rip me to pieces? But all that kind of went through my head, and thank God I was with a group of hardened guys because they brought me out of that and kept me focused. Especially, the one Marine that we had with us, he's a retired sergeant. He's all oorah'd up and, it just keeps us kind of focused. And I guess he didn't fully appreciate what was going on because he's standing up and he goes, "We're not going to let anything take us from this position. If anything comes at us, give it, boys," kind of giving like a speech, and and everybody gives like the oorah. Yeah, that sounds like it's like a cliche, like or something like a movie, but that's how it was. That's how we were, tight knit as a group. We would do stuff like that and give a big oorah. So we and I guess the rest of the guys, they were ready to fight. Even though if they saw what I saw, I think they would have been. Well, I know they would have been in the cars earlier. So I went past so as we're doing all that preparation going on, meanwhile, we had started to hear, I guess it was at least two of them now. We heard an additional one that was coming up from the opposite direction, and we could hear snorting and grunting and twigs snapping in the brush. As some of us were prepping the fences, we had some guys that were watching the perimeter, and they're calling out, "Contact, 1 o'clock, moving to 3, fast. Contact, 5 o'clock, contact." And it's just like, oh, good God, I'm there in the middle of the fire, carving spears, and they're calling out all these contacts. Everybody means business at this point. Thank goodness that I guess these Dogmen were they were buzzing us, really. They were probing us, I guess. Maybe they were, in a way, when I look back at it now, it seems like that they were messing with us, I guess. I don't know what goes through their mind, right? But, they started throwing some stones into the campfire area and some larger sticks and stuff like that. Most of our flashlights were just kind of like the old bulbs, like, I guess really good LED flashlights weren't quite out yet. We had the rescue lights and they were good, but we only had a few of them. So the rest of the flashlights were kind of like, eh. And it just seemed like my buddies kept on seeing just flashes of these things going by, if we see them at all. And I started looking after I was finished with the spears. I got onto the perimeter next to my brother, and I can laugh about it now, I guess, but at the time it was so desperate that I had there was a metal garbage can that was there. I had the metal garbage can as a shield and this wooden spear that I had just carved. Like, I'm going to take on this Dogman, this 8-foot plus tall monster with the garbage can top and a wooden stick. Oh, and then I had a knife stowed away on my hip. it's like, sounds like, it's like a joke now. Like, are you kidding me? So, what ended up happening after they're buzzing us for a while, going back and forth, they always seem to just kind of stay outside the light. My buddies ended up finally, they usually never do this. You'll never fire at something unless you can see what it is. And there's other campers that are down at the area. So they kind of fire like some shots in the air. And then my one buddy kind of sees one and fires a couple of shots, but we knew that was in the direction where the campers were not, I guess. But after these shots went off, we heard them maybe a little bit rustling around, and it seemed like they moved out of the area. I'm not sure which direction it was. I think they moved out to the east, kind of generally in that direction. And I said it was actually a relief, because as they were leaving, we heard kind of some yips and howls as they were going. And we know there's at least two of them. I think there might have been like three. It could have been more for all we know. And they're so fast, you can't really get a beat on them. So as they were moving out, it was actually kind of comforting hearing them howl. You can tell the distance that they were going farther and farther away. So it was a little bit of a relief hearing that, because I could tell that they were moving out instead of it just going dead silent and not knowing where they are, or if they're gone or not, or if they're just hunkered down ready to pounce on you or not. So they left kind of out of the area. Then after that, it was a scramble in an orderly, frantic manner, if that makes sense. Pack up everything and throw it in the trucks and got out of there. And then what astonished me was the other campers that were down by the pond, by the boat launch. Their campsite, I guess, in a direct line from ours. Yeah, like I said, it's about 120 yards, maybe. And we come pulling up to them, slamming on the brakes as we're ready to go. We're hanging out the window, and we're like, "You guys got to pack up. It's dangerous." We didn't tell them that there are werewolves in the area, because we wanted them to believe that there was legit danger, but not necessarily know, I guess, what it was, because we didn't want them to not believe us and stay, and we didn't really want to rock their worlds either with knowing that werewolves or Dogman are real. So we just kind of said, there's some large animals here. They're hostile. It's not safe. You need to get out of here. And they kind of just then they looked at us like, I remember the one girl and this guy, and they're just like, huh? They gave us this look of like, they were puzzled. They were like, huh? Confused. I was like, what, are you kidding me? You didn't just hear a battle raging like 100 yards from you, and it's nighttime. It's not like there's any noise going on up here. And they're just like, oh, we thought you guys were just partying up there and stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, and shooting at each other. Like, really? Come on. I don't get it, some people. So it just, I'm, I just don't get how they did see that it was some kind of danger going on, especially since we were hauling butt out of there. But I guess they left after that. I don't really know. We didn't stick around to find out. So we got out of there, hauled out of there, and all kind of regrouped at this diner that was probably about 40 minutes away, collected ourselves, and because we had just thrown a lot of the equipment just randomly into the bed of the truck and into my Jeep. So, we had to rearrange ourselves, collect ourselves a little bit, make sure we didn't forget anything, stuff like that. We had made sure the fire was out before we left and things like that. We just soaked it. We always had a bucket of water ready. So things like that. So it's not like we left and it would have been dangerous for us to leave the fire or anything like that. We left in a hurry up, responsible type way, if you will. So, we regrouped at the diner, and and I'll tell you though, there's not only with those, I'll keep going back to those eyes, and now I know why too. Like, I feel for people, and I can identify with them when they say things about the eyes and how there's something to it, and how they see an intelligence in the eyes, and I totally concur. Like, I know exactly what they mean. Like, not only with the strange illumination of the eyes and how they didn't emit any light, not only that, but as it was just looking at me, like when it first turned its body and was looking at me, it just, as it was staring at me, it just had this confidence to it, and just like, not like it's not like I was looking into a regular, another animal size, like a bear or a dog. Like, you could just tell that there's an intelligent soul behind those eyes. Like, this thing knows exactly what it's doing. Its motions are calculated, and, you know, it just, like, it's as if I was able to like, kind of like get, like, what it was, like, emotionally. Like, as if it was like a, disgruntled guy that was just trying to, like, random, you know, vagabond trying to move to the woods, and we were in his way. Like, it was weird, the type of, like, connections that I kind of got when I saw those eyes. It was just, yeah, there's a lot more to them than just looking at a normal animal's eyes. They're just the most amazing and terrifying thing I've seen, to, you know, cooperatively, most amazing and terrifying thing together I've seen hands down in my life. And I tell you, I've never been scared like anything like that before. And my world is different now. I hear people like that go camping and stuff like that. My uncle has got my two little cousins, they're girls, they're going on a Girl Scout trip to go camping, and I was at his house the other day, and he mentions how they're going camping on a troop outing, and I'm like, oh yeah, and then, you know, who's going to be there? He's like, oh, well, you know, there's only going to be like a few adults and something like 15 girls that are, you know, they're only like, what, 8 to 10 years old or something like that, these girls, maybe a little older, and he's like, oh, you know, it doesn't matter. And I was like, well, where are you going? He's like, oh, it doesn't matter. And I'm just thinking, I'm like, well, yeah, it kind of does matter. And it just made me realize how many people, like, just don't know. And why is it like that? How many people don't know the real dangers that are out there? And, you know, somebody will mention to me, you know, I have another person I know walking the Appalachian Trail. They mentioned to me, oh, I got bear spray with me or whatever. I'm like, is that a joke? I'm like, you should not be doing that. 1, alone. 2, unarmed. I'm like, you have a death wish? And just, these people don't know. And that's why I'm doing this. And I came out to tell this story because, you know, I took an oath as a firefighter to serve and protect. And in a way, I feel like this is the right thing to do, to tell what happened, that there's other things that are out there that people should be aware of, you know, and we were able to talk that over. I don't know if every guy there that night saw something a little different, kind of, not that they were different creatures, just, you know, everybody got a taste of it. Some guys saw a little bit more, some saw a little less. I obviously caught the brunt of it. I saw the most, and yeah, we regrouped at the diner, and that was about it. And you know what else is ironic, Vic, is that I don't know if it has anything to do with the Dogman being in that area at Hunts Pond, but the next year, my buddy who usually organized the trip, he wanted to just poke and just to pry it a little, just because he was curious. We weren't going to go back there, I'll tell you that, but he just wanted to see what they would say, and he called the ranger that we knew, and the ranger just said the very next year that it was closed due to quote unquote economic reasons. And I don't know, it sounded a little suspicious to me, because this, hey, you know, maybe it's true. I'm not saying it's not, but it just so happened to be right after we had this outrageous Dogman encounter. So I don't know. You can be the judge of that. So I guess that's about it, Jake. That's the story.
Besides your brother, Tyler, who was the first family member you talked to about that encounter?
I told my father.
What was his response?
Both my parents are alive. My mother, I didn't tell her so much so soon because, she probably be worried or whatever, but she has known since, and she's a little bit more susceptible to this and accepting. My dad, I think he believed us that we encountered something that night, but he supports me, and to an extent. But I can tell he's still kind of to the point where it's show me and then I'll believe it, or let me see and experience it for myself and then I'll believe you. Or 100% believe you. I guess he's that 90% because he trusts his sons, and obviously there were other guys that were there, so it's kind of all those witnesses, accountable guys, police officers, Marines, firefighters, real psychologically sound guys. So he couldn't really deny it with that. But I guess he's still kind of, in his mind, to accept the fact that there's Dogman out there. Because I guess his position kind of is that he grew up hunting too with my grandfather and being in the woods a lot and all those things, getting raised in the woods, doing a lot of things, fishing, hiking, hunting, and never ran into anything other than your standard creatures or animals, nothing, no cryptids or anything paranormal. So I guess his position is like, well, I've been out in the woods so much during my life. When did I have ran into one of these things or a Sasquatch if they really are real? So he kind of believes it, but I can understand that perspective too. So that's where he's at.
Well, unless you actually see a Dogman with your own eyes, it's going to be hard to accept without any doubts that they do exist. But I am glad your dad didn't dismiss what you told him about your encounter totally out of hand. At least you seem to be kind of open to it.
Yeah, he supports us. He's pretty accepting. It's not like he told us we were full of you-know-what. No, it wasn't like that. So, and then me and my brother, we have each other as support too, so that helped a lot.
I hate the fact you had to have that encounter, but if you have to have an encounter like that, I am glad your brother was there with you. When you saw it walking bipedally from left to right on the road there, was it pretty steady on its feet or was it kind of wobbly?
Oh, no, it was steady. Yeah, it was rock steady for sure. It looked like it was completely comfortable doing that. Well, it was, looked like it was kind of wobbly when it first stood up. Like I said, it kind of like threw its left shoulder up and then its right shoulder, like as if it was doing shrugs, like its traps, like kind of like pulled its traps up and at the same time lifted its leg and its hip joints or whatever, something popped and cracked into position. So when it was first standing up, it was as if it didn't look so stable. But then once that whatever, after that popping noise and it connected, oh yeah, it was ready to move if it needed to. It was nice and firm.
Yeah, sounds like it must have been. Did the fact that you had 4 guys with you there seem to intimidate that Dogman at all?
No. It looked like it was strolling through. It was going to move wherever it wanted to, whenever it wanted to. I mean, maybe it kind of, I guess, I shouldn't say that it didn't consider us at all, because it did like look like it like stopped and was checking me out, and then maybe it stands up because that's where they get ready to do their business if they're standing on bipedally. Maybe that's where it prefers if it has to go into action. I don't know. So I would say that I'm sure it could hear the noise of the guys over the hill because they weren't that far. And, when it's 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, it's a clear, crisp night, there's no other noise but us. And you could even still hear the music, the country music playing a little. And the guys, they weren't a quiet group at the campfire. They're kind of rowdy. So I'm sure between us 4 and it coming up on the site, that's where I guess we did pose maybe a potential threat, at least enough for it to be somewhat defensive. But as far as us 4 alone, I don't think it was too afraid of that or anything. No, I didn't see fear in it. It was just more taking precaution, I guess. That's what I would say.
Well, they don't seem to fear much, if anything, so I'm not all that surprised it didn't fear you guys. How much trouble have you had getting over that experience?
Well, at first, my nerves were kind of shot a little bit. the first week and a half afterwards were all rough sleeping. Every time I close my eyes, I see like the eyes like glowing in my head. It's just like that thing's face staring at me with its snout and its breath coming out. Like that's every time it seems like I close my eyes, and I'd start to like drift off a little bit. I'd wake back up because it'd be in my vision again, or in my head. But then that slowly, I guess, it was a little rough afterwards. But then I was a little bit more accepting of it. I guess I was able to get over it. 'Cause, I did have my dad that kind of accepted it and to talk to. But then mostly I have my brother to talk to, and a couple of my friends that were there too. Most of like the friends that were there were kind of just like, don't tell, like, it was one of those things where they had an issue because who's going to say what when we get back home? We know a lot of people here. They're in pristine positions like police officers. They were worried that people would be saying things to other people saying we saw a werewolf, and then next thing you know, they're thrown into that mix and maybe their job could be in question. So it was, it was a touchy situation. That's why we all had to discuss it at the diner afterwards, what we were kind of going to do. So if I was able to contact somebody that was there, anybody that was there, we could like talk amongst each other if we were only with somebody that was there. That was like the rules. And we all honored that and followed that strictly. So I was able to kind of go to them for support, but a lot of the guys, some of them just kind of didn't want to talk about it at all. Maybe they dealt it in their own way. I don't think it was as traumatic for them as it was, say, for me or for my other buddy that went alone down the road. So I think I'm really grateful that I have my brother to assist me. And I did have the perception beforehand that I always thought that there's other things that could be out there that aren't registered in mainstream science yet. I'm always been an outside the box thinker of that. I've been always open-minded to the possibility over things. I'm not a closed-minded individual by any means. So not that I live in fantasy land, but I always say just about anything could be possible. There's a lot out there we don't know. So I think with all those factors involved, it helped me get over it fairly quickly. Within a matter of, after the first month, I was able to sleep okay, and I was all right from there.
The fact that so many of you experienced it sure does help. Do you know if any of the guys with you that night had a really hard time getting over that experience?
I'm not sure about the rest of the guys, other than my brother and my one buddy who walked down the road by himself. It was really him, my brother, and me that and we were all pretty close. So we hung out a lot. So we were able to be together a lot and talk about it. We were probably the only three out of the whole group we were the ones who saw the most and experienced the most. So the other guys just kind of took it as another dangerous experience they've been in. Like I said, a lot of these other guys, they were Marines and stuff. They went to Fallujah during like the big push and stuff like that. One of them was in Baghdad, so a lot of those guys saw dangerous stuff. They were dealing with those things too. So this experience in the woods was just another day. It was like another day on the job for some of them. So it was really me, my brother, and my one buddy that kind of hung out and had to get over it together. And since we had each other, we pushed through it pretty well, I think.
Yeah, sounds like you did. I'm so glad, like I said before, you've got that good support system in place. That helps a lot. Do you know if any other people have had encounters there at that place?
No, I can't say that. I'm not sure. I'd like to talk to that ranger. I don't have his number. I never really even thought about calling him because it was really my one buddy that was the one who set up the trips all the time and talked to that ranger. I don't even know if he still works in that area or whatnot. And they do rotate out, so it would have been nice to have maybe gotten his number or asked one of them, but who knows if he even would have told me anyway. Maybe if I was honest with them, he would have. So, but I don't know if anybody else had said anything in that area, Vic.
Well, outside of that ranger sharing details about any other happenings with you, there really wouldn't be any way for you to know if there were other experiences or encounters that happened there, so I can understand. How far do you live from where that encounter happened now?
It's about 4.5 hours for me. Maybe 5 hours.
Okay, pretty far. Well, that's a good thing then. I guess that kind of helps you.
Yeah, it's almost a straight shot north by northwest a little bit. So once you get up to Lake George, you go about another hour north by northwest a little bit.
Well, at least it's not right around the corner. If it was that close, it would be a lot harder to get over that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even with it being far away now, I mean, like we have pockets of woods around me. So, a lot of people think of New Jersey and they just think it's factories and city. It's not, like we discussed how there's lots of portions of woods in New Jersey and I'm right up on the New York border. I can almost throw a rock into New York where I am. So, there's lots of pockets of woods. In my backyard, there's a small area of woods with a stream running through it, and I live on a dead end, a little more separated, even though, I mean, it's a suburb area where it's pretty well populated, but there's pockets of woods where, hey, if there was the way I've seen these dogmen move, if they wanted to come into this area, move through here, or even scavenge through here, they could do it with ease. They could just move through the streamlines, just in pockets of woods, hopping fences if they need to. I'm sure they can move through here, no problem. So I'll tell you, I mean, even though it's far away from where I was, even now when I go to take out the garbage, if it's at nighttime, I go out there. I'm looking around and I'm listening. I don't walk around with headphones in my ears, listening to music like on the street and saying, I'm not one of those people now. Like I see those people and I'm like, wow, you are vulnerable. You are just like, you might as well put up a sign above your head that says fresh meat, bombing down the street with headphones here. I don't want to get carried away now, but yeah, let's just say that I'm definitely more alert with everything I do that involves outside, whether it's in the woods or not.
Oh, I can understand that. Because of that encounter, have you sworn off camping and fishing now?
Well, the whole thing with camping and fishing, it's just, if I'm able to go fishing around here in my area, I know all the little spots or the streams or little bass holes and ponds and stuff like that, or the reservoir, whatever. So that's all fine. But if I'm going anywhere where it's a little deeper into the woods, I need to be fully prepared. Like first of all, I don't think I won't go into the woods, at least farther into the woods to where, maybe say a half mile plus. I won't go in alone. I'd rather be with a group of 4 plus and fully armed to the teeth. To be honest with you, with that to this, I don't know if I can't do camping unarmed now and sleep in a tent that vulnerable, knowing this. I can't go camping vulnerable like that with just a knife. And it really, I worry sometimes too, like I mentioned, with my uncle and my cousin's little Girl Scouts going camping. Like I worried for them when they went. Or I had another cousin, I said, that was walking part of the Appalachian Trail. She's a young girl, so she's in her 20s. She has a Labrador with her, but I'm like, I just told her, I'm like, listen to the dog. Just please, if the dog freaks out, move. You gotta go, because it's those things that worry me. I can't go into the woods now without having my head on a swivel and being fully armed. I just won't do it. Not after seeing this thing. And of course, you always got to take caution against your traditional animals, but it's not those that I worry about now, Vic. It's after seeing this thing, it's just it humbled me. I don't even. It would take more. You would have to give me at least a platoon of Marines if you were to tell me to go after that thing. No less firepower than that. And I don't even know if that would help. This thing was that big. I'm just trying to get across how powerful this thing, just looking at it. And that's an 8-footer, I guess you could say, give or take. I can't imagine what 9, 10, 11, or 12-footer would look like. That's just, oh man. But, the 8 feet, just 2 feet taller than me is enough to make it enormous. So yeah, that's just, my perspective's just changed permanently, Vic. I have to be alert now to go into the woods or do anything like that. Yeah, I can't be naive like that, I'm not ignorant anymore. So once that happens, permanently changed.
Well, it's pretty humbling to see something like that. And most people would feel the way you do if they had to go through what you did that night. Well, Tyler, it's about time to wrap this thing up. Do you have any closing comments you'd like to share?
Well, the precautions that I take now when I go into the woods, I just really want people to listen to this and to have at least try to, maybe people that are closed-minded, to try to at least have an open mind, because I tell you, these things are out there. They're no joke. And you just you just be careful, be alert, pay attention to what you do, watch your kids when you're going out to the woods. These things, they're no joke, and they're out there. So, take all those precautions. Pay attention to where you're going. If you're going camping, go prepared. Research your area. At least try to find out some stuff, about the area where you're going, and take all those precautions. Be a Boy Scout about it. Don't just go randomly, and you gotta be careful. And I hate to say that it's not being paranoid, it's just being prepared, and aware. There's a difference. So I guess that's about it. Thanks for everything, Vic. I really appreciate this, for the opportunity to come on here and express this. I really want people to be able to listen to this and have it help them, and maybe it'll save somebody one day, or help them in some way, because they heard something that either I've done or you've done here on Dogman Encounters. That's what I hope for.
The fact that you came on tonight and shared all those details, I've got no doubt that's going to pay huge dividends. Well, thanks again so much for coming on the show tonight, Tyler. I really do appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Vic. It's an honor.
Have a great night, okay?
Okay, you too.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.